Okay, guys, once again, welcome to lesson 25 of Digital Marketing 3. And just to recap on everything that we've done, remember, guys, we started with lesson 9, doing situation analysis for a digital brand. And we discussed that a digital brand exists in an environment where it has got players affecting its immediate trading operations and the entire context in which that brand lives in. We then said that within that immediate trading environment, we have got customers, because customers do affect a brand immediately because they bring in income, they generate revenue for a brand. Then we've got suppliers. Suppliers also play an immediate role for companies, because without suppliers, it will be difficult to trade. So during the day class, I gave them an example for KFC. So if you're a KFC, you exist in communities. And in that community, there are factors, there are players that influence your existence. And we can group those players into two: immediate players and wider players. So immediate players will be your customers, because in order to exist, you need customers to buy from you. Then it will be suppliers. In order to exist, you need people to provide you with chicken so that you can create a meal in order for customers to buy. Then you've got competitors. If you don't know what your competitor is doing, you can actually be kicked out of competition and not exist. Then we've got intermediaries. So these are all the things that we were talking about, and we categorize them as micro environment. And it is important to know that customers, competitors, suppliers, and intermediaries are not the only players within the immediate trading environment of any company. Who else do you think is essential that we did not cover in this subject, that we think is essential to be regarded as an immediate player of any business trading environment? Guys, we have employees. So without staff, it will be difficult for a company to operate. So we can also regard employees as part of a micro environment. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
All right. Who else do you think plays a critical part in a company's operating environment to be regarded as micro environment? We've got shareholders, guys. Do you know shareholders?
Yes.
Yes, they are also part of the immediate environment of any business. So that's micro environment that we have been talking about. But now we are going to look at the wider environment, which is the macro environment. So from lesson 25 onwards, we'll be focusing on the macro environment. These are the factors that influence businesses, and businesses do not have control over. So that's what we are going to be talking about. And just a recap, as I was highlighting what we did previously, we did a revision on micro environment. And with this one, you need to be able to identify how the microenvironment affects a brand's digital marketing strategy, planning, implementation, and performance. So you also need to consider the legal, moral, ethical constraints of digital marketing. You need to be able to identify aspects of each of the microenvironment forces that are particularly relevant to digital marketing. And you need to understand the significance of social media in the macro environment. So these are the lesson outcomes for lesson 25. And these are the key terms that are going to be coming across as the lesson progresses. And you guys are well aware of these terms because we've been talking about them ever since we started doing situation analysis. Now, as an exercise, what are the aspects of macro environment?
Would these be like the PESTLE, like the political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental aspects?
Yes, that's correct. So we've got the social, the legal, we've got the political, and these are the aspects that we are going to be talking about uh, throughout this lesson. I don't know why Obunolo has put us on hold, or maybe something happened. I just hope she's okay. So the things that you've just mentioned, Razia, how do these influence digital marketing strategy? Let's hear your
Mm,
guesses.
I think it helps you identify um, what are these things called? Opportunities and threats for your company.
Okay, it helps you identify opportunities and strengths, correct. What else? For example, how would legal factors influence digital marketing?
Like you can have limitations with regards to your strategies based on the regulations or you know laws in place with regards to the digital marketing.
Okay. All right. We are going to be covering these anyway. So this is just a teaser uh, to see how far you guys understand this concept. So yes, legal factors always have to do with compliance. You just need to know whether your business is compliant or not. Because if you do not do that, then there is a problem. You might end up being sued or your company being deregistered. So macro environment forces can influence digital marketing indeed. These are the forces that affect the trading environment, but over which brands operations have limited direct influence. So they are not the same with micro, because micro can affect a brand directly, but these brands do not have direct control over. For example, brands did not have uh, control over COVID. They have to adapt to operate during the COVID period. So they could not stop the virus to spread. So we explore the macro environmental forces, focusing on the potential relevance of each marketing strategy. So mostly you always regard these as political factors, economic factors, social factors, technological factors, legal factors, and environmental factors. The reason why we consider the macro environmental factors is because of the rate of environmental change. societies are evolving. We keep experiencing new technologies. So as societies are evolving, as the environment keeps changing, you hear people talking about global warming, you'd hear people talking about climate change. All these changes, they've got an impact on the consumer behavior and the way business is done. And this also happen in digital communities because those digital communities are filled with people. So in the digital world, changes in social culture and particularly pop culture tend to be very rapid. Introduction of new technologies and changes in their popularity tend to occur frequently and with increasing speed from concept to commercialization. So it is the job for us, digital marketers, to be alert to these forces that are important in the context of their own trading environment so that we can aim to ensure competitiveness of business. So in order to survive, you need to be well aware of your environment. In chapter 2, our focus was on microenvironment, as I explained at the beginning of this session. In this chapter, we are going to look at how broader macroeconomic forces can influence digital marketing. In the marketing literature, there are widely used mnemonics which aim to act as an aid memo for the microenvironmental forces. So some consider these as PEST, which is political, economic, social, and technological. Some will say SLEPT, some will say PESU, depending on what thing you think is easier for you. But the most known one is PESU. That's why we call PESU analysis. And where each letter represent a slightly different arrangement of the following macro forces. So whatever way you use there, you just need to know that there are some aspects of political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental. However, you need to understand that sometimes questions can come in different forms. That if it says physical factors, there's a question saying that can you identify the physical factors influencing KFC? Where would the physical factors fall under on PESO analysis, guys?
Maybe environmental,
Environmental. Why did you say environmental?
because it has to do with the where they operate, so the environment in which they operate.
That's correct. So if it's say physical factors, environmental factors, geographical factors, it means the same thing, guys. So on that note, it can't be really PESO analysis because there's no G for geographical on PESO. There's not P for physical. But you need to be clever. You need to think strategically when it comes to that. So you need to be able to locate it within the PESO analysis. Then another one that tends to confuse students and scholars is political factors and legal factors. What is the connection or what is the link between political factors and legal factors?
I think maybe the two get confused because the political part, sets the laws, so that's legal. So there's that crossover.
That's true. So realize that parliamentarians, members of parliament, who are from different political parties, they convene in parliament to draft legislation, and those legislation They are then signed into law by the president, and they can then be tested into in the court of law. So realize that sometimes it's tricky to know the difference between legal factors and political factors. But in most cases, with legal factors, it's always something that has got legal ramifications that can be tested in the court of law. Whereas with political factors, it is always something to do with the political environment within a given territory or area. You know, let's say there are political squabbles within ANC where there's factionalism. Have you guys heard about the term factionalism?
Yeah, sort of.
So factionalism is when there are divisions within a political party. That there's a group that belongs, let's say, to Ramaphosa, and there's a group that belongs to Zuma. So that creates political instability, and it can also lead to policy uncertainty, which of course affects the trading environment of any business. So when it comes to political factors, you only look at the political context of any given society, be it amongst political parties or within political parties. I'll give you an example of expropriation of land without compensation. Have we heard about that, guys?
Yes.
So expropriation of land without compensation is not a law, so it's not a legal factor. It is political. Why is it political? Because different political parties have got different stances on land. EFF have got its own policy on land. DA has got its own policy on land. ANC has got its own policy on land. And as a result, they are failing to come up with something that would become a law to be tested and recognized in the court of law. So this remains a political issue unless if it is passed into law. But if we look at the POPI Act, it's a legal fact because it has been turned into law, and if you violate it, you can be sued, and it can be end up at the court of law. Can you see the difference, guys?
Yes.
So this is how you look at pestle analysis. You have to be clever about it because sometimes questions come in many forms. You don't have to be confused between political legal forces, and you don't have to be confused between geographical, physical, and environmental forces. So, for a digital marketer, the most important task is to carry out a thorough assessment of the forces that are shaping the online marketing environment and identify which forces have implications for their own marketing planning and strategic initiatives. So that was it about lesson 25. So this is an introductory lesson introducing the pestle, introducing the macro environment. Are there any questions or comments?
No. No.
Obunola, are we all good?
Yes, we are all good, sir.
Okay. So now, before we start looking further, unpacking the acronyms for pestle, let's look at how you can apply the macro environment on mobile and SMS application. So that's our next lecture, lesson 26.